morning, everyone at Loan Depot Retail. I'm excited to be here today because we're going to have a special guest, Ash Talay, who works in our direct operations. And he and I and many others have been talking about how in the world our direct operations in Loan Depot do over 400 million refinances, cash out refinances primarily, a month in a market that seems like everyone's rate's 2%. Seems impossible. So we're going to talk about that this morning and share with you some of the tactics, the scripting, the kinds of clients that they work with. And we've got the resident expert here to do that with us. A couple of facts first, which I think you'll find interesting. So the latest studies come out that over 75% of mortgages in the United States are under 5%. So you think about that and you go, wow, 3/4 of the country's under 5%. Wow. We're at 6.5%, right? Sneaking up to 7 periodically, right? Which we don't like, but it happens. So it's like, so how does that happen? If all the population has a mortgage lower than today's rates, how could we possibly be doing over 400 billion refinances this year? Let's talk about your day and how it works and what you say to people, what kind of clients our loan officers should be looking at and talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me aboard. What's going on, Loan Depot Nation, our retail channel. It's definitely a blessing and an honor to be here. My name is Ash Talay. I'm a part of our Irvine Direct Division. I've been with the company for about 4 years now. And as far as where we're at today and the type of business that we're bringing in, we're doing about maybe on an average basis about 20 to 30 originations per month on the high end, and on the middle end we're doing about 15 to 20, depending on the month. As far as what type of clients are coming as far as the cash outs, it's generally people that are looking anywhere in the sums of $20,000 to $30,000. Now, most of the people that come as far as the clients that are coming today, as far as the ones that you're saying that are 1% behind in the market, are homeowners who are in a tough spot. It's really unfortunate, but it's homeowners who really need the cash and homeowners that really need an out to be able to get the money to do whatever the home improvements, debt consolidation, and things like that.
I read another article I thought was interesting that said today Americans have the highest credit card consumer debt in the history of America.
30,000 average.
Right.
Just about.
So when you start thinking about 6% or 7% on a mortgage rate versus 25 to 26% on a credit card rate, immediately you have an offset. You have an opportunity to talk about numbers. Absolutely. And I think people kind of forget about that. It's like, really? Yeah, their mortgage may be at 5% or even 4.5%, right, but they're carrying $30,000 worth of credit card debt, which frankly eats up a tremendous amount of that value that they have for that low first.
Right.
So that's just another thing you run into all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to say most of the people that get on the lines, they're looking for some sort of help or coaching without even knowing that they're looking for a product of a cash out refinance, which is the topic of the HELOC. And most homeowners are coming in with about $20,000 to $30,000 of debt per average on every single loan amount that we see. Consumer debt is at an all-time high, and like you said, 15 to 25% on credit card averages is really where we're at.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've listened into some of the direct folks talk to people on the phone, and one of the things I picked up just in my experience is they spend a lot of time with them on the phone. And even if they don't get a transaction, which is frustrating, I'm sure, and everybody in retail thinks that's crazy. Why would I spend an hour on the phone with somebody I'm not going to get a loan for? Well, for those of us in retail that have always gotten a lead, or in the past have gotten leads from realtors or home builders that are in contract, so we are like, really just have to manufacture a loan. It's not selling them on whether they need a loan or not. It's just manufacturing the loan and closing on time, right? This is a different world we're in now. We're in the world of social media, we're in the world of internet, we're in the world of consumers who are much more interested in shopping, understanding, getting educated, are not in contract. And we have convinced, the mortgage industry has convinced most consumers to not shop before they get pre-qualified.
Right.
And the reason we did that is that we wanted to get ahead of the real estate community so we could control the business as opposed to them controlling the business. I mean, that's one reason. Plus the other reason is your spouse gets super pissed when you show them a house you can't afford and they love it. So just understand. I've had that experience with the woman I live with, and it wasn't good. So I highly suggest that we continue to tell people get pre-qualified if you want to stay married and not have to have a refinance for a divorce, because that wouldn't be helpful either. But I think it's important to talk about kind of the scripting. When people call up and they say, how do I get $30,000? Maybe it's a HELOC, maybe they're not thinking maybe refinance right away, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point that you brought up. So it's interesting that you brought up on people that are coming into us and how the script goes, because it's honestly down to a science on the direct end. On the direct end, it is really about an hour to an hour and a half of talk time that you have with these clients before you can actually assume any sort of closing. Any general client, whether it's a follow-up or somebody that you touch base with in 2 weeks from now or 2 days from now, you're on the phone with them for an hour. And Direct has done a really good job at narrowing that down to a science. How many minutes are you on the phone with this client before you even attempt to go to credit? Many loan officers are eager to go into the centralization of, I want to pre-qualify them, I want to see what they have, what's under their credit report, and they want to get straight to the sale. That doesn't work in this type of market at all.
Right.
It does not.
And it does not work in DPLP either. So those of you that are on the DPLP program where you get leads from the company and they go out, they've been filtered at some level. But for the most part, they're like every lead that goes into direct. So if your first question is, well, we'll run your credit report, that's not the relationship starter. No. That's not what works. So right. I've watched that, and I've watched these guys make those kinds of conversions. So let's talk a little bit about using Mello.
Yeah.
You know, we have this technology. Is there any pieces of Mello technology that you use religiously to help the homeowner kind of understand the numbers?
Absolutely. So the two pieces of Mello technology that I use religiously on every call is the loan benefits sheet, and there's another calculator that can show a side-by-side comparison of your actual amortization between whatever options that they're looking at, whether it's a HELOC or a first refinance mortgage. And you're able to show them how much interest and principal that they're paying. If they were to pay what they're paying on their credit cards towards the mortgage, how fast would they pay off their home? That's the general sell of this market as a whole, I would say, is showing them you have $4,000 of obligations today, $3,000 on your mortgage and $1,000 on your credit cards. Yes, you're at a 5% rate on your mortgage or 4.5% or whatever the case is, right? At this 6.5%, if you're consolidating your $1,000 worth of credit card payments into one consolidated payment on your mortgage, you're paying off your home 6 years sooner. And it becomes that emotional sell where you're showing the benefit versus the interest rate, not a rate market right now.
Totally. And I think that's important for all of us, whether you're in retail, direct, whether you're a broker, it doesn't matter. Yeah. We're trying to find a solution to the problem. We're trying to diagnose the best solution. And the best solution might be you can't do anything right now. I mean, that might be the best solution, which is frustrating because it doesn't make anybody any money, but that's the reality. So from my perspective, if you think about it from retail, if we've got 400,000 customers that we already have done a loan for, so theoretically we've got a relationship with that borrower. Hopefully it went well and they remember you kindly and you've continued to keep in touch with them. So when you reach out to them, which is what this is about, reaching out to them, maybe the answer is to reach out to them with a pre-filled out loan analysis form that you can pull out of Mello and say, I just thought you'd be interested in seeing what this is looking like now at today's rates if you wanted to take $50,000 or $25,000 out of your home.
Right.
Maybe that is a better commentary and a better thing to send to your clients on a CRM than, hey, the rates are going to 7, looks like they're going to go a little higher, but we think they've peaked, which is fine. You can read that in any newspaper any day of the week.
Right.
But the extra step of personalizing kind of a loan estimate to them, I think is maybe a shot, maybe worth something to do.
Absolutely.
At least it might get their attention to pick up the phone and call.
Absolutely.
So to me, we've got, in this market of scarcity, we've got to look at every single opportunity with the consumer.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is not one of these, I'm going to pick and choose and I got all my lines are lit and I'm waiting. It's you guys all know this. You've been seeing that probably one of the toughest markets in my 40 years I've ever seen, certainly from the pendulum swing, from 2.5% mortgages to 7 in 6 months is dramatic. And clearly, much of our industry has struggled underneath that paradigm. So give me an idea. I'm a consumer. I call you. Your average loan size is what, 350, 325?
Yeah, about 250 to 325, I would say that you get.
And by the way, for those of you on the call, in retail today, I got a statistic that said this year to date, so this is through June probably, over almost 21,600 loans we've funded under $200,000.
Wow.
That's the highest number under $200,000 we have ever funded in purchase business. And why is that the case? Well, let's think about it logically. Who's buying houses today? First-time home buyers, right? The jumbo market is soft. It's slow. The resale market, the move-up market, a lot of that's not happening because people don't want to leave a low rate, right?
Right.
So if you're in markets with low loan sizes, a higher interest rate refinance and getting them back cash out on equity is not as painful from a payment standpoint as somebody with $1 million loan, which is pretty painful when you go from 3 to 7, right?
Yeah.
So just be thinking about that when you look at your client base and you look at your loan sizes. Don't go after the $1 million guy necessarily with this strategy. Go after the $300,000 loan, the $400,000 loan, the ones where, frankly, you have benefits. And we all know on the purchase side, you've got the benefits of Fannie and Freddie trying to help the first-time home buyer with actually jury-rigging the grid to give them a better price, which I don't know if that's going to be here forever because it's kind of ridiculous, but it's the game we're playing today. But we're talking about refinances now.
Yeah.
Retail, we need refinances. Guys, this is the time when we have to pull out every rabbit out of every hat we have. And 400,000 customers that have a relationship with Loan Depot, I assure you 25% of those people want to talk about pulling money out of their property.
Yeah.
Whether it's a HELOC, cash out refinance. So give me a scenario where you've got a borrower called on a HELOC.
Okay.
You talk about the HELOC, and then somehow it either turns into the HELOC, which is fine. We should hear about that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the HELOC is just the entry into what might be a better option for them, which is the cash out refinance. How does that go?
Yeah, so really good point that you brought up. The HELOC is just a vessel in my eyes as far as what is actually going to come up. Every single homeowner right now is going to approach you as far as wanting a HELOC versus a cash out refinance. They've got equity, they've got a low rate, they say I've got credit card debt, my solution is a HELOC. As a homeowner, that's what they're thinking. My solution is the HELOC.
Sure. Makes sense.
So they come to you with the problem, and that's what you have to do in the first standpoint of the call. Assess the problem. Forget about the product that they say. They want a HELOC, they want a cash out, sure, I'm here to help. Even before the fact, you want to listen to what their pain point is. So 4 of the things, right? You have debt. Are you looking for investments? Are you looking for renovations? Or are you looking for a combination of all 3? Right? Obviously, it's more a combination of 2, which is just taking cash out for any improvements or taking cash out for any debt consolidation. So you get that client on the phone, you talk to them about how much they're paying per month, you have them write it down, make them feel their pain. You'll ask them, how much in minimum payments are you paying? $200 a month? Okay, is that the average? Is that the minimum? No, I'm overpaying. I use that because on the credit report, when you see what they're paying, it'll just show you minimum payments. A lot of loan officers forget credit card payments are just minimum variable payments. So if the rates go up on them and vary up, so will those payments. So you get an assessment of right there where they're at right now and sense out the pain points as a starter. Sure. That's the first thing to go with. Right?
Well, and I've done this in the past myself with people who had, let's say they had 6 credit cards and they were, $5,000 each. So they were at, they've had 6 different cards, they're passing them around. This one's good today, this one's good, I'm paying the minimum on this.
Right.
This one has a slightly lower interest rate. Just consolidating all those payments to one payment a month is helpful.
Yeah.
Even if it was exactly the same payment, right? In other words, you add it all up and it's exactly the same payment, but it's just one payment a month to one vendor, as opposed to 6 different Venmos, checks, however you pay your credit cards. People don't realize what a nightmare that is. By the way, interest rates change on cards all the time. So the card you think was at 15 is now at 18. Right. And you didn't even realize it because you're paying the minimum.
Exactly.
So it sneaks up on people in a kind of an evil way that we can solve.
Right.
So let's go back to your analogy. They asked about the HELOC, you talk them through the HELOC,
Yeah.
and then kind of where does it go from there?
So you talk about the HELOC and you want to never sell yourself out of one option versus the next. So I asked them what their paying points are, how much they're paying per month on these, and where they want to be at. Like, what's the goal? I use the HELOC as a vessel. Like, where do you think that this will take you? In my eyes, and the way that most of the clients work, is the HELOC is just a giant credit card balance transfer. And they've already tried that 3 or 4 times before they're calling you. We all had the 0% credit cards a year ago. People were doing those balance transfers. So now they're resorting to home equity. They've put off this problem for 2 years already. During COVID, 0% balance transfer. Everybody did it. And they can't do it anymore. So the HELOC is essentially the same thing. So if the client is susceptible to being able to see that, I show them that this HELOC may not be the right vessel, because you're just delaying the problem on an interest-only payment. And then I start to just dangle the cash out refinance just a little bit to them and not press it. Because what's every lender doing right now? Everybody on Lending Tree, cash out refinance, cash out refinance. Why do they come to Loan Depot? Because we have the option. We utilize this option to be able to carry the conversation on why it's at 1 to 1.5 hours of talk time. The first 30 minutes, you're not selling them, you're hearing them. You're putting everything they give you in your pocket to be able to construct a real thing to help them. This is not just sales, by the way. This is genuinely something that's going to help them out, but they weren't able to see it in the first place. Somebody who balance transferred $15,000 on a 0% to delay the problem hasn't been the best solver of their own problems in their life. So they have to see the other way.
I agree. Or you might have situations where obviously people have college-age kids who they need to get money out of the house to send them to the college. I mean, there's lots of reasons why people need money. Sometimes it's to pay off a spouse. Sometimes it's to send somebody to college. Sometimes it's debt consolidation, just because I've got myself in this bind now where I didn't realize I was, $30,000 in credit card debt because it crept up on me with this minimum payment game that we play. So I think it's really important that we understand in retail that there's $400 billion in refinances being done in the United States this year. And we're not getting our fair share in retail. So I just want you guys to think about this a little bit, understand that we do have folks who are experts at this. We do have some tools in Mello that you can use that are really simplify that process to the consumer.
Absolutely. And
give them a sense you're really trying to educate them and help them and not just make a transaction. So look, from my perspective, Ash, you guys do an incredible job in the most difficult market you could possibly have. Because your purchase business is obviously on the lower end of your schedule, where our guys are the other end.
You guys are doing great.
But frankly, even at 98% purchase, which we are in retail, there's not enough purchases going on to make our organization successful and to make you individually in retail hit the numbers you want to hit to live the lifestyle you want to live. So this is where we have to start rethinking all the parts of our business, whether it's DPLP, cash out refinance, the HELOC product, as well as our purchase business, which we know we focus most of our time on. So I appreciate you coming to join us today, Ash.
You got it, man.
It's great to have all these people get a chance to see talent in action.
Thank you.
And I think all these things are part of who we need to be. You can't be a loan officer that's got one wheel on the tricycle, because when that wheel gets a flat, you got a problem. So I appreciate you coming and talking to us. I always appreciate all the things you guys do. Living here in corporate now, watching these guys play, if we had half their energy out there, we'd be killing it. So guys, absorb it. Thanks again, my man.
Yeah, you
Ash,
got it.
it's great to have you.
Appreciate you.
You bet.
Thank you so much.
Have a great time. Good luck out there, guys.
Yeah.